When it comes to game changers for recruiting volunteers in your church or in your ministry, there are probably some game changers that recruit more volunteers or are more effective in terms of just recruiting volunteers than the one that we're going to talk about today. But I don't know if any of them are more important because we're going to talk about students serving, getting students to serve in your ministry, in your church. We're talking about middle schoolers, high schoolers, teenagers. Serving is a big deal, and you want to do this if you can. Serving helps grow a student's faith in big ways. Sometimes serving might be the thing that grows their faith more than anything else during a certain season of their life. That was absolutely true for me. I would still put engaging with the Bible high up on my list. It's always kind of been number one to grow faith. But as someone who had grown up in church and learned the Bible in so many ways, I needed to serve to kind of take ownership of that, put that into practice to continue growing my faith in a new way that I had not experienced before. Serving also helps students see it as their church, not just their parents' church. So if you have teenagers whose families attend there, maybe they've attended there for a long time or ever since that student was born, then they could see it as their parents' church and they just have to go. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not something they choose, but if they serve, they will see it as their church, which really helps with that transition from when they graduate high school and move on from there to college or career or whatever. If you invite students to serve, it can also help your ministry grow. You're talking about adding volunteers, which is what we're talking about in this video, being a game changer for volunteer recruiting. Obviously, if you can invite students to serve and you weren't before, if students weren't allowed to serve or some kind of schedule made it so they couldn't serve, obviously your ministry team is going to grow. But I even think your ministry could grow because you'll be able to reach more people because you have students serving. Students make up anywhere from 5 to 20% of the attendance of most churches. I would say 10%, 10 to 12 is probably like the normal range there. If a church is older and doesn't have as many young families, you might see that student number be 5% or even less. If a church is doing really well reaching teenagers, like really, really well, then they could make up 15 to 20% of the attendance. And would we really want to say no to, 10 to 20% of the church attendance to serving? Like, we don't need, 10 to 20% of them serving. We'll make it with everybody that's rest. No, we don't want to do that. We want as many people serving as possible. And certainly you want students to be part of that. Students make up anywhere from 25 to 35% of the children's ministry team at my church. And that ebbs and flows as seasons go by. But you can imagine if we didn't have teenagers serving, that's a third of the team gone. In fact, every year when our student ministry goes on the fall retreat, we laugh about it because in kids ministry, it's a challenge because we're missing a third of the team. It's hard to fill all those holes and gaps. It's not like we have that many extra volunteers who can just fill in easily to make up for them being gone. So we really miss them when they're gone. They make up a third of our team. So do students serve in your church? I think students can and should serve in most roles in your churches. Now, there are going to be some roles that students aren't going to serve in. They're not going to be elders in your church. You know what I mean? You might have age limits where, middle school can serve with kids up to this age, but if you're high school, you can, lead kids up to this age. Or, maybe you don't let certain age students serve in the nursery, but they can serve here. So, and that's all great. I would say get clear on what that is. Make sure that you're leaning towards encouraging students to serve as best you can, because that's really important. But keep in mind, they can and should serve in most roles in your church. And students can and will be better volunteers than many adults. So you don't want to miss out on this. We've seen that before with how they attend trainings more regularly. They sit up front, they're engaged, how on time they are, how prepared they are. We have students that kind of take ownership of some rooms in different areas of the ministry, and they just do an awesome, awesome job. So I don't know what we would do without them. Here, if you want to get students serving, either you don't have that currently, or you do, but you want more, partner with student ministry to invite students to serve regularly. One time, one of our volunteer coaches in elementary ministry wanted to get more students serving. So he talked with our elementary director and our student pastor, and they planned for him to show up at the regular weekly student ministry gathering and invite students to serve. But not just that, he actually had 2 student leaders who were already small group leaders for us in elementary come up and kind of share their story, how they started serving, why they serve, what they love about it. And it was awesome. These were 2 girls that had actually grown up in our kids ministry too. So they were part of a small group, in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And then now they're in high school and they're leading a group of girls that are in second, third grade, things like that. So it was just an awesome story. They used that moment to recruit, but I think you could partner with student ministry to recruit regularly in student ministry, like 4 times a year, probably, I think would be ideal. And then to kind of build this culture of it, celebrate students serving in unique ways. Like we've done a breakfast one time just for student volunteers. It didn't matter which ministry they served in. It was just to celebrate all students who serve and who volunteer in different teams within the church. And that was a lot of fun. We gave out like awards that we made up and prizes and, had breakfast. And it was just a great time, told stories, and it just builds up that culture that we value students serving, which you certainly want to, because if you want to grow your team, if you want to recruit more volunteers, you really want to get students serving for sure. So this is one of many game changer videos. You can watch more of them talking about game changers for volunteer recruiting. If you want more help with recruiting volunteers, building a healthy volunteer culture, check out ministryboost.org, where we have courses and resources to help you recruit more volunteers and grow your team.